Rat Kings have been reworked. From the basics of the rework, you can now rummage through things like disposal bins to basically generate food. The reason why this is good is because before, it was really hard for Rat Kings to get a consistent source of food, especially if people are aware of you. You're basically stonewalled into killing yourself by running into a hallway. But the big change is the way your rat servants work. So when you spawn a rat servant, on the left side there are 4 options. There is stay, follow, cheese them, and loose. So if I do follow, they will follow me. And by default, they are not even aggressive to the crew. As you can see, there is a crew member there. If I do a command like loose, they will start attacking the nearest person that is not of the Rat King's allegiance. If I tell them to stay, they will stop automatically. So you basically get more direct control over how your minions play. And if you get a bunch of minions, you can really get a pretty powerful looking army. I think it looks really cool seeing this many rats following the Rat King perfectly. And due to this change, rat servants are no longer ghost roles. The Rat King no longer has to worry about their servants not obeying them because, well, they will obey you. It's completely up to you how you manage your rat army. The guidebook can now be popped out in the bottom left, and what that does is it basically turns it into like a Windows, and you could even drag it to a second monitor. Salvage expeditions have been reworked again. They now currently only have moderate difficulty missions, but as you can see, the reward for doing them has been removed. Now you just randomly find the rewards in the dungeon itself, so you will actually have to search each room looking for the loot. It isn't just the same preset loot every single time. The duration of the missions has also been changed to be 7 minutes, but you can still get things like lava or grasslands. You can still get the dangerous atmospheric modifiers, which doesn't change the difficulty of the mission, but I'll just show you what a dungeon looks like with the new loot. Once you actually get on the dungeon, you'll find things like this. For example, there's just some loot on the ground here that would normally be here before this update. I found 2,500 bucks there. See, there's another example of the random loot. There's a chem dispenser board just sitting on the ground there. You actually have to search every room now because you don't 100% know what's in each room. And inside, there's an ammo tech fab. The loot pools are not super extensive, but there's a lot of goodies in here, like especially, I mean, just finding money is always really good for salvage, and finding like the ammo board is also good for salvagers. And yeah, it's cool just seeing the expeditions being a little bit quicker paced. You don't have to always deny missions because the reward just isn't good enough or whatever the reason is. You basically just pick a mission and get it done, and you're not super concerned about what might be inside because it's more random now. You can now pick up weapons in harm mode. And before, you would have to juggle having harm on or off in order to actually interact with things on the ground. This might make disarms a little bit more active. And on top of the harm change, you actually now face the direction of your mouse cursor as long as harm is on. So if you're kiting backwards and shooting, you're actually facing the right way. Armed nukes now actually show up on the station map. So if you have access to a station map, it will tell you exactly where the bomb is planted. So this can make it so nukies no longer have as much element of surprise if they manage to arm a nuke without people really realizing it, and it makes it much easier for the station to come up with a final plan. The end condition of Nuke Ops has changed, so now when the last nukie falls,
the emergency shuttle has been called.
The round no longer instantly ends. It will just say, based on our scans from our long-range sensors, the nuclear threat is now eliminated. We will call the shuttle that will arrive shortly. You can recall the shuttle to extend the shift. So it's still completely indicative of the nuke threat being over, but it's up to the station now to either RP out the rest of the round or just wind down the shift. Syndicate items that cause massive station damage like the Syndicate Bomb now have a timer on them. You cannot purchase them before 30 minutes, meaning that you can't accidentally break the rule of causing massive station damage with these items before that time period. You can still get them out of a bundle, but they should cut down on the amount of usage they see early on before people even get a chance to start their shifts. A lot of the stealth items in the game have had their telecrystal price reduced, and I'll just go from left to right. The storage implanter's price was reduced from 12 to 8 telecrystals, the jammer went from 5 to 4, the chameleon kit went from 6 to 4, the voice changer went from 6 to 2, and the clown costume went from 4 to 2. Bows and arrows have been added to the game. Bows can be crafted for only 10 wood planks, 5 cloth. Arrows can be crafted for 1 rod, 1 cloth, 1 glass shard. There's also normal arrows, but there's no way to acquire them at the moment, and there's a quiver, and the only way to acquire a quiver at the moment is through random maintenance wall storage lockers, so your odds of getting one of those are pretty low. In order to shoot a bow, you simply just take an arrow, load it into the bow, then you take the bow in your hand, you press Z, because you have to have 2 hands on the bow to shoot it, Turn on harm and simply left click. Arrows, like spears, will actually embed into somebody, meaning that they have to pull it out. Well, they don't have to pull it out, but if they don't pull it out, it'll be stuck in them forever, and that means you yourself can also pull the arrow back out and reuse it. Throwing a spear or shooting something with an arrow will actually inject all of the reagents in the arrow or the spear. So if I have a uranium spear coated with 5 units of amatoxin, and I hit a Death Squad member with it, this Death Squad member will actually be in quite a lot of trouble. If I just examine their health, just look at how much damage that did. Death Squad armor is the best armor in the game, and getting hit with a amatoxin spear, it did well over half their health, and it's poison damage, which isn't all that easy to treat. With 2 of these spears, you can more or less instant kill anyone. If you manage to have amatoxin. I know it's a pretty specific use case, but before throwing a spear was basically a last-ditch effort, but now these things are rather dangerous in the right hands. Binary translator key is available for telecrystals. It lets you tap into Silicon's binary channel. Don't talk on it though, not without a voice mask. Basically, it's just a radio channel that lets you communicate with the Silicons, but you probably don't want to communicate with them. You more than likely just want to have it in your headset, and just like any encryption key, you just slip in your headset, and you'll now be able to understand the Borgs on their radio channel. Treatment kits now feature different inventories. I'm not going to go through them very intensively, but I'll just have them all on screen. The bigger things to mention is down the toxin kit has charcoal pills. That's a pretty big change. The radiation treatment kit also now has phalanxamine syringes, and it has a rad auto-injector in it, as well as a Geiger counter, which is pretty nice too. Those are definitely the more big name changes. A burn treatment has a Siginate syringe as well, and yeah, they just are more focused on what they are trying to treat, which makes sense for a treatment kit. Ear goggles and onion goggles now show hunger and thirst indicators. They basically disappear above your head. Makeshift shields cost less now. They only cost 5 low voltage cables and 5 steel. Bucklers also cost less now, only costing 5 low voltage cables instead of makeshift cuffs, and 5 wood, 5 steel. The shields are unchanged otherwise, they're just cheaper and should be a little more practical to make in emergency situations. AMEs no longer make the loud clanging sound if they have no fuel or are injecting nothing. So if you hear the AME turn off, well, it's either not there or it's no longer producing energy, and either way, you should probably go take a look. Barotrauma damage has been increased, so you're really going to want to keep your space pen close or make sure you have access to EVA and hard suits, because you have at least 30 or so less seconds overall to survive in spaced environments. Closet skeletons are a new mid-round neutral role. The description is wreak havoc, you're a primordial force with no allegiance, live happily with the crew or wage sweet skeletal war. You just request it like any other ghost role, and you will literally spawn in a closet or a box, and when you pop out, you are a skeleton with no access, and the only thing to your name is a jumpsuit and shoes. They can't take barotrauma damage, and they don't breathe, but they have a hard time getting medical help. But yes, it is nice to see Rattle Boys come back. As always, I will scroll through the changelog for all of you that just don't have access to it and want to see it. I want to thank all of our maintainers, contributors, and everyone else for keeping the game up to date, full of content, quality of life, and just every other thing that keeps this game flowing.